Every atheist I have ever met says the same thing. I don't believe in God. But watch them closely and you will catch them doing something strange, something they cannot explain without him. They will call something unfair. They will call something wrong. They will say a man who hurts a child is evil, not just not their style. And the second they say that word, evil, they have already admitted something they swore they didn't believe. Stay with me for the next few minutes, because by the end of this video, you will never hear someone say, I don't believe in God, the same way again. And if this starts to mess with your mind a little, hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments. Have you ever caught yourself believing something you couldn't explain? Here's a question almost nobody asks. If there is no God, who decided that cruelty is wrong? Not illegal, not unpopular, wrong. Think about it. A rule needs someone who made the rule. If the whole universe is just an accident, just particles bumping into each other with no mind behind any of it, then nothing is really right or wrong. Things just happen. A lion killing another animal isn't evil. It's just nature doing what nature does. But somehow, every atheist on earth still gets angry at cruelty, still feels something rise up inside them when they see injustice, still believes deep down that some things simply should not happen. That feeling did not come from chemistry. It came from somewhere deeper than the brain. There's a truth as old as humanity itself, that right and wrong are written into the human heart, even the hearts of people who have never read a single page of scripture. That's why someone living in the middle of a jungle who has never heard the name Jesus still knows that murder is wrong. That's why a scientist who says God doesn't exist still believes betrayal is disgusting. Nobody taught us that. It was placed in us, and only someone outside of us could have placed it there. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Ask an atheist why they wake up every day. Ask them what their life means. Most will say something like, I want to make a difference, or I want to leave the world better than I found it. But stop right there. Better according to what? If there is no higher standard for better, then nothing is actually better. It's just different. A world full of peace and a world full of war would be exactly the same. Two meaningless specks floating in space, unless meaning is real. And if meaning is real, somebody had to put it there. You don't stumble onto purpose lying on the ground like a coin. Purpose comes from a mind, a plan, someone who looked at your life and said, this matters. Every atheist chasing purpose is, without knowing it, reaching for the hand of the very God they say doesn't exist. Here's a detail almost nobody stops to think about. Atheists trust their own brains. They trust logic. They trust that 2 + 2 will always be 4, today, tomorrow, and 100 years from now. But ask yourself this. Why should a universe with no plan, no design, no creator behave in such a perfectly predictable way? Chaos doesn't promise order. Random doesn't promise rules that never break. And yet, the entire universe runs on laws so exact that we can send a machine millions of miles into space and land it perfectly on another planet using nothing but math written on paper. That is not an accident. That is a signature. And the strange part, every atheist uses logic to argue that God doesn't exist, is standing on a foundation that only makes sense if God does. And here's something so obvious you've probably walked past your whole life without ever noticing it. Watch an atheist when something shocks them. A car almost hits them. They drop something expensive. They see something they cannot believe. What comes out of their mouth? Oh my God. Not, oh my universe, not, oh my atoms, not, oh my evolution. God. Every single time, without thinking, without planning it, the name they claim doesn't exist is the one that jumps out of their mouth first. Think about that for a second. You don't call out to someone you truly believe isn't there. Nobody in a moment of shock shouts the name of something they think is made up. That reaction isn't something they learned from a movie. It is a name written so deep inside a person that even their own disbelief cannot stop it from slipping out before their mind even catches up. Every atheist has spent their whole life surrounded by people who pray, who say thank God, who whisper his name after a close call, and somewhere inside them, without ever agreeing to it, that name became their instinct too. They didn't choose to say it in that moment, it simply came out, because somewhere in them it was already there. And here's the part that should shake you the most. Atheists grieve deeply. When they lose someone they love, they don't say, well, that's just atoms rearranging themselves. They cry, they ache, they long to see that person again, somehow, somewhere. That longing is not biological. Nothing in nature requires you to hope for something beyond death. But almost every human heart, believer or not, carries a quiet whisper that says, this isn't really the end. That whisper isn't random noise in the brain. It's a memory of the eternity we were made for, placed in us long before we ever had words to explain it. So the next time someone tells you, I don't believe in God, listen a little closer. They believe in a justice they can't explain without him. They believe in a purpose they can't find without him. They believe in a logic that only holds together because of him. They cry out his name the moment they are caught off guard before their own mind can stop them. And they grieve with a hope that only makes sense if eternity is real. They are not as far from him as they think. They are standing in his fingerprints every single day. They just haven't looked down long enough to notice whose ground they're walking on. And maybe that's you too, somewhere quiet inside where you doubt but still long for something more, where you question but still hope. He hasn't moved. He has been there this whole time, waiting for you to finally look down.